All right, let's go. Welcome everyone to Thursday AI for June 11th. My name is Alex Volkov. I'm an AI evangelist with weights and biases from CoreWeave. And this week has been an insane week, a big model week. We finally got Mythos, and Apple presented some stuff at WWDC, and there's a whole bunch of stuff for us to talk about. So, in order to help me talk about them, we have a few folks here. Let me add Peter and Wolfram to the stage. Hey guys, how you guys doing?
Hi, Alex.
Big model
What a
week.
fabled week.
Fabled week. We had some, how should I say, some info that this may come in some form or another, but I was definitely surprised about how it came, about the fact that we had Mythos from Anthropic, and folks, we'll this is the show banter. We'll talk about all the details as well. But I think if you're watching the show and you're tuning in to learn about everything that's new in AI, you'll definitely hear us talking about the biggest model from Anthropic that we've ever seen, the model that they deemed too dangerous to release before. And Peter, we actually talked about this in London, I believe, a little bit, right? That they was this a marketing stunt? Was it an actual model that it's too dangerous to release? And now we finally have hands on it, and we've been testing this. All of us been debugging, evaluating, and so I'm very happy to bring the show to you and talk about Fable and Mythos. We'll add LDJ here as well. First impressions, folks. Before we dive in, before anything, first impressions. Let's start with Peter. Peter from LMArena AI, by the way, joined us as a co-host for today. Welcome, Peter. Thank you so much for joining.
Hey, what a week to join. Definitely an exciting one to talk about Fable. I remember we chatted about it in London, and I was thinking at the time, like, that's it, we're just never going to get anything better than Opus. So I'm glad we finally have it. I did a bit of testing kind of in my personal projects and also in Arena, and it's extremely impressive, and like some for some tasks it's just completely insanely impressive versus anything else I've seen. And then there are a few other tasks where it's just like not that good. Like, so it'll be interesting to hear what you guys saw. I can show you a few examples later, but something like, for example, you kind of research a data set and create me a visual experience to teach me about this data. Like, that's just one shot, absolutely unbelievable. Anything else was just completely rubbish before, to be honest. Then things like just kind of 3D front end, that kind of stuff is very impressive. That's also very good. In my personal projects as well, I was getting to do like code review and things like that. That was really nice. Just like very coherent, very just nice to read, understand everything, and so on. It's not the case with like GPT models. It's kind of confusing, very, very technocratic kind of thing. But what I didn't particularly like it is I was trying to get it to do, for example, slides, do a bit of research about like AI market and put me together a presentation explaining it. That felt kind of okay. Like if I was, I don't know, a manager or a client, and someone brought this to me, I'd be like, okay, I guess like it's not really, there's not a lot of insight, there's not a lot of like heavy work. So, oh yeah.
Peter, did we lose Peter, or are you setting up? All right. Meanwhile, Wolfram.
I probably should put on the acceleration glasses.
You should put the acceleration glasses 100%. We finally got the big one.
The big one, big model smell and big cost. The 5 is not just the Mythos 5. Actually, I evaluated on Wolfbench, and the cost was in the 5 digits, actually. And the surprising thing is that it wasn't even that good because it refused so many of the tests I had that the score wasn't even the best one. So we can talk about this later. But that was the biggest surprise for me, that it didn't just rock the benchmark because of so many refuses. I even did an analysis how many tests it refused, like cracking a password or something, which you could actually have a use for yourself. But unfortunately, this model is very locked down. Stuff other models, even 4.8, 4.7 would do. So it's not just light, there's also some shade.
Yeah, I gotta wonder, Wolfram.
DJ is pulling out glasses.
I gotta wonder if it's better for us to not have gotten access to it at all, or have gotten access to it in this way, where it's like refusing almost on every possible turn. And I don't know where I land, honestly. Like, I'm not sure. Like, I'd rather probably have access with the refusals.
I have a strong opinion on this. It's good that it is there, and if it's refusing, okay, but it should say so. So there was this controversy, which they paddled back on, about refusing certain things, not just openly, but degrading the model quality. You posted about this as well.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest, the worst thing I saw about this. But
all right, so we'll definitely dive into everything that happened this week. But folks, this is a big one. This is a big model week. This model has huge model smell. I think we could all agree. It's not perfect, but it definitely changes the way Anthropic talks about the models. I think one of the highlights of this week is that Tariq from the Anthropic team is said basically, this model switches us from verifying the outputs of the model to switching to trying to verify whether or not it's working on the right thing. And I think that switch is very interesting. LDJ, I see your sunglasses, acceleration sunglasses. Have you been trying out Fable? What are your thoughts?
Yes, big model smell. I think it's maybe the most significant new big model smell we've had in a while. I think we had some touch of that with when Gemini 3 first dropped, with all the SVG tests and everything with that. But I know even till today, and I know some people might disagree with this, but I feel like Gemini still kind of it's still not as polished around the edges as the OpenAI and Anthropic models. But this is like a new significant big model smell with that polishing and everything around the edges,
Yeah. My biggest issue with this, and I would love to hear Peter about this as well, and Wolfram, I have no idea how this model gets evaluated. Everything I asked this model got reverted to Opus. So folks who are just listening and maybe haven't played, or maybe haven't paid the Anthropic tax, or maybe focused on the OpenAI ecosystem, we'll dive into this. Fable has very strong restrictions around cyber, around bio, and I think bio risks, and around the new one is around ML and AI infrastructure at the frontier. But for some reason, even me asking for it to draft a news, like a TLDR for the show, got flagged and reverted back to Opus, which was just absolutely ridiculous to me. I couldn't get it to provide a TLDR without falling back to Opus, no matter how much I tried. And I think it's just the content of the stuff that it reads, but still, it was absolutely ridiculous to me. I was able to get it running, and I'll talk about this later on the show, to do some stuff on the Thursday website, and it was incredible. But I have no idea how you actually evaluate this. Do you guys talk a little bit about that, and then we dive in?
Yeah. Maybe I'll show you one thing that I did. Is I've got this bullshit benchmark, and it has a bunch of questions. I think this version has about 100 questions, and they all kind of make no sense kind of questions. They maybe take a finance term and put it together with a physics term or something like that, and then we see if the model kind of pushes back or accepts the premise that doesn't make sense. But the interesting thing you see here for Fable is this new gray bar I had to introduce, is that it outright refused. Not like said, oh, this question doesn't make sense, not just no response. It was blocked by their classifier. So a third of my questions did not make it, which is kind of crazy. And I think there was like I think if I remember correctly, there were like 20 physics questions and 18 got rejected. So yeah, you're right. It's not it's not really working that well for testing.
All right, let's ask our friend Jan Peleg here quick thoughts about Fable 5, Mythos 5, and then we'll start with the TLDR and dive in. Folks, just before we go there, we have a great show for you today. We have a bunch of guests. We have Swyx is going to come and talk about Frontier Code, which in one day after release, Fable took over and twice the top score on top of. We have Thor from the Google Gemini team, DeepMind team. talk about Gemini Real Translate, Gemini Live Translate, and then also Max Weinbach to cover WWDC. Also, like this week, Tim Cook took his last keynote stage and talked about the new Siri, which I still haven't gotten access to. I'm on the wait list, but everything I hear is incredible. So we have a great show for you. A lot of it is going to be Fable, obviously Anthropic, but we'll definitely cover everything that happened in AI like we always do. With that, Jan Peleg, welcome back to the show, man. Tell us, have you played with Fable? What's your thoughts?
Oh yeah, I did. It has deep, big model smell. Absolutely, it is impressive, 100%. But I find Opus a little bit more controllable, if it makes sense. I mean, anyone with me on this? Just more controllable, kind of more listening to you, to what you wanted, and at least on my prompts, put aside the destroying your rate limits in 2 seconds. That's a thing on its own. At least on my prompts, I had to fight a little bit with Fable to get it to the right track. What do you guys think?
Wolfram?
I saw the same. I saw that in the benchmarks where it had a clear task to do, and it basically said, oh, I know better, and I will do it my way. Of course, the verifier then said, no, you failed, but the model was so self-confident that it did its own thing, and I haven't seen that yet in benchmarks, so obviously. So that reminded me of what you said, where the benchmark tries to steer the model, but the model says, oh, I know better anyway, I do it my way, and fails.
One thing I found is that I was doing some kind of difficult math tasks, things like that, and I was using GPT model to do the kind of the legwork, and then Fable to review, and then kind of going back and forth. And then when Fable was getting its work criticized, it kept just kind of explaining why I got things wrong instead of like fixing its work. And this kind of behavior just kind of threw me. It's just like, what are you doing, man? Just like move on. And I think it does have too much brain, too much personality to just get on with it and do the work. So yeah, it's definitely different. We need to get used to it.
I think with every model that comes out, there's a period of adjustment that we need to try and play with it. The same happened with the move to GPT 5.5, when many people is like, oh, this is the better coding model, but the prompts that they had for Opus, for example, didn't quite work. They had to like rearrange this. Many folks from Anthropic are talking about trusting the model more, giving it less kind of guidelines, and just like letting it rip and like being more nefarious, not nefarious, more, how should I say, general in the description, just letting it figure out stuff.
More high level. Like if you give it too many details, like try to micromanage it, it's kind of not going to like it. It's going to try and do what you wanted, but like in a different way. And many times there is a very good reason I'm like withholding information. You can say like withholding a little bit of information because I want to give a follow-up prompt later. So if you do it your way, it's not gonna be. But yeah, 100%, everything you're saying. Yeah.
I will also say it's very important. We'll talk about this a little bit, and we'll go to the TLDR soon. Is that this week also both Peter Steinberger, who now works with OpenAI, and Boris Cherny, the guy who runs Cloud Code, both talked about the same concept, which is loops and loop engineering. And it feels like they kind of, this is weird for us to see from both competing labs, kind of the same concept coming out within an hour of each other. I don't know if you guys saw. And we definitely should mention this. Everybody started thinking about like, what is loops? And I just think it's incredible that how much the rest of the world is far, far, far away from kind of the bubble that we're in, because many people use those who use AI. Most of the world doesn't use AI yet, but like those who do use AI use it as search and for free. And then there's the next tier of folks who are maybe using some more conversations down the line. And then there's like a very small piece of the world that uses agentic stuff. And then Microsoft and Google and now Apple, we'll talk about Apple, are trying to push the agentic stuff on. And then now the meta moves into loops. And loops, I think, represents the proactive agent concept that we've been talking to you about for a while. Basically, things that run and act when they need to, and some things are happening automatically, and we wake up and stuff got fixed. With the switch to models like Fable, Mythos, and maybe the next one, the OpenAI will release to try to compete with that. I think that's going to be very important, so we'll cover this. Folks, it's time for TLDR. There's a bunch of show to cover. There's a lot of stuff that happened. Obviously, Fable Mythos is the biggest one. Anthropic finally released the model that they deemed too dangerous to release, and they safeguarded it to oblivion. But let's go to the TLDR. Let's try to run through everything that we have to talk on the show, and then we'll dive in actually Fable with evals and benchmarks and everything. Let's go to TLDR. Alrighty, this is it. This is the TLDR for our June 11th show. Today with you, your host, Alex Volkov, AI evangelist with Weiss and Bison and Core. With co-hosts, we have Peter Gostev, Wolf from Ravenwolf, LDJ, and Jan Peleg, and Nistan is going to join us at some point. I want to highlight the guests that we're going to have very soon in like around 30 minutes. Around an hour. We have Thor Shafe from DeepMind and Google to talk about Gemini Live Translate. Then we'll have Swyx from Cognition, or like advisor to Cognition, I guess, Frontier Code, organizer of AI Engineer, to talk about Frontier Code. He helped Cognition to come up with this benchmark, and Anthropic called it out on the Mythos Fable evals benchmark list. We also have Max Weinbach from Creative Strategies and a strategist there to talk about WWDC. He participated in the WWDC audience, and then he got access to the new SIRI. And I can't wait to tell you all about this, because I'm very excited about this. We've talked to you about Apple Intelligence for a while. We got very disappointed for a while, and now maybe finally there's glimpses of Apple catching up, and I think it's going to be very, very exciting. In the big companies and the APIs and LLMs, obviously the big thing we have to talk about is Anthropic ships Claude Fable 5 and Mythos 5. This is the same model with different restrictions. Mythos 5 is only available via the Project Glasswing that we told you about before, and the one that we have access to is called Fable 5. It's a Mythos class model, state of the art. I want to switch to this view to tell you state of the art on nearly every benchmark. It's been a while since we've seen a category changer like that. Fable 5 is state of the art on nearly every benchmark that we've saw and then we tested it out on, that we saw it being tested on, and it's very expensive. It's $10 per 1 million output, $50 per 1 million output, and it's available in the API as well, and a bunch of refusals. There was a controversy for exactly 24 hours. I couldn't wait to tell you about this, and then Anthropic reversed course after a public outcry yesterday night. So we'll tell you about the controversy, but we're not going to go super deep into this. Apparently, for some parts of the queries, they claim like 0.3%. Fable would quietly degrade itself on purpose on Frontier AI dev task with no notification. This is just awful, and it's so awful that there was such a public outcry that Anthropic reversed course, something is very, very rare to see. Within around 24 hours, there was a community backlash. But still, the model refuses to answer prompts about cyber security, bio and defense, and now also Frontier AI training. It refuses way more than just that. And we'll tell you about this because even my attempts at writing this TLDR that you're reading right now, it refused and switched back to Opus, which was ridiculous. It's available for free. It's not free. It's available on the Pro and Max tier until June 22nd, and then it switches back to usage credits. It's going to be very, very expensive. So if you are on the Max or Pro tiers, use it now. We have also notes that Notebook LM goes agentic a little bit with multi-step reasoning and new output formats from Notebook LM. I want to mention this, and I actually wanted to wait for Nista and maybe LDJ to help me cover this. SpaceX announced a AI-1 satellite, 150 kilowatt compute payload satellite with 70 meters wingspan. And this one comes just before the announcement of SpaceX IPO that goes live today for at least $135 per share. And many people are waiting to get in on that action. So like a very timely announcement, but AI satellites in space. Also very important to talk about. OpenAI posted a paper that they caught influence operations trying to use ChatGPT to fuel anti-data center and anti-tariff campaigns across the US social media. We've told you about our feelings that some of the recent conversations about anti-data center does not feel organic. And here's a confirmation from OpenAI, and we'll definitely at least have to mention this. They found concerted efforts from different groups to write and create campaigns to affect public thoughts on data center and tariffs, which is crazy, absolutely crazy. Folks, I'll pause here for the big companies and APIs. Anything else, anything huge that we're missing here for the big companies that we absolutely must mention in the TLDR section? Does it look like it? All right, let's move on. We're moving on to WWDC. This is the next thing that's very important to cover in the big companies. Apple had their annual WWDC conference, which is their developer conference, all about software, nothing about hardware. Apple finally came back to us 2 years after the famed Bella Ramsey, here is Siri doing a bunch of stuff, ads that they pulled from YouTube. And 2 years after they failed to deliver smart Siri, Apple rebuilt Siri from the ground up, this time trusting Gemini, I guess Google for their models. We're going to chat with Max Weinbach, an analyst who was at WWDC, and go in depth in there. Siri was built from the ground up with AI. It's a standalone app now. It has a persistent history. You can send chats. You can send images to it. It's personal on-screen context, I think, is very important. And with Wolfram, we'll chat about there's no EU launch for Siri at launch. They partnered with Gemini. 4 of the 5 Apple Foundation models are Apple, and some of them is Apple Pro Server is on Google, on NVIDIA GPUs on Google Cloud, which is very interesting. And we'll talk with Max Weinbach about the architecture breakdown. Apple Intents is the way to get Siri to think about those stuff, and I think it's very important that many apps will start switching to App Intents. We've waited 2 years for this to happen, and we haven't seen this. So this is, I think, a big news. I think it's bigger than most people realized. The conference itself was kind of boring, but I think it's very big news. On AI coding and agents, we're going to talk about what loops are and why is everybody talking about them. Lance Martin from Anthropic break down the agentic paradigm that Boris Cherny and Peter Steinberger from OpenAI both talked about. Obviously, these companies are interested in selling you tokens, and loops is a way to even make sure that they sell you even more tokens. But with models like Fable, I think it's very important to switch the paradigm from, hey, I'm giving you a task, I'm babysitting you, to, hey, the task will come, a Jira ticket will show up, a PR comment will show up, and then you have to set up your agent to just run proactive. And I think loops engineering is the next thing that everybody's talking about, and we will mention here on the show as well. Then Frontier Code from Cognition is the latest new benchmark that people talk about in terms of code. They talk about how Swybench is unmergeable slop. Swyx said this, and mergeability graded eval from the top IOI medalists at Cognition, and we're going to talk with Swyx about Frontier Code as well, which Fable 5 immediately took the top spot on within 24 hours of the release. We also mentioned AI Engineer World's Fair that's coming in almost 3 weeks. And yours truly is going to speak there. Weights and Biases and CoreWeave will sponsor that event. It's in Moscone West. And also Kimi released Kimi Work. Local agents are running with Kimi Code. And I think, Wolfram, you added this, or this is from last week. OpenAI Sites is now in Codex. You can host sites with auth and DBs straight from Codex, I think. I think that this is it for Agentic Engineering Corner. Let's talk about open source. Wolfram, you want to run through this TLDR briefly? Have you have a chance to take a look at some of these stuff, just as a TLDR topics?
Yeah, sure. Let's go through them. So, do I actually have it open? I will just look at your screen. So diffusion Gemma, that is the diffusion model. It's not generating token after token. It's generating a whole block, and like the diffusion image model. So this is a new way and very fast. So about 1,000 tokens per second on one H100. it's Apache license, so it's nice to see Google advancing stuff. I'm not sure if you have it in the notes. I sent it as well. There's also a new Gemma version that is quantization aware, fine-tuned basically, which quantizes better and is better for local use. So also another news item from Gemma. They're very active with the local stuff. Very great.
Yeah.
Cohere's North Mini Code is the first coding model from Cohere, open coding model. 30B active, 3 billion, 30B total, 3 billion active Apache 2 licensed model. So as always, applause for releasing open source stuff. Cohere has reawakened basically. So they recently released their latest command model and now also a coding model, a small one. Xiaomi MIMO V2.5 Pro Ultra Speed is also a super fast model. That seems to be a new norm where we get so many fast models. Great for agentic use, of course. 1,000+ tokens on the 1 trillion MOE model. And another one, Macaron V1 Preview, is also a big one, 749 billion parameters. Mixture of LoRa personal agent model, MIT license, so fully open source as well. And OpenAnth goes community owned. That is, I don't have the news on this one. So
that's right. You have the news on this one. In this week's buzz from Weights and Biases, Wolfram, you finally were able to run. This is predating what you were able to run. Fable on Wolfbench, and you'll give us some updates about this, right?
Oh yes, that was an expensive run, but I think it's worth it because it's the Thota model right now, and it's important to look at it in different ways.
Yep. So then we'll switch to voice and vision. We'll have Thor Schaaf from Google DeepMind to talk about Gemini 3.5 Live Translate. It's a streaming speech-to-speech model, and it has 70+ languages, and it's very, very cheap, 2 cents per minute with Synth ID as well. Flux launched client on device, sub 5-second agent generation. Let's see, Reka and Moon Valley got merged together, world models and robotics. And I think open video tool CCL2, control to character animation. I think, folks, that's pretty much it. There's a bunch of other stuff, but I think it's pretty much it. It's time for us to start talking about Fable. I think it's time for us to talk about Fable, folks, because I think this is the big item. So let's switch gears here. Let's pull up. Anthropic launches. We already mentioned this multiple times, but folks, this is what we want to talk about. I think the most big model day, big model smell. What did you run with Fable, folks? Fable burns through tokens. I want to run through the panel here and talk about what did you test Fable on or Mythos on, and was it worth the very high intelligence that Anthropic deemed too dangerous to release before and then release? And then we can talk about some of the constraints and the requirements. Peter, I want to start with you. We invited you. You're a new co-host here. You work at Arena. You guys evaluate everything. Also, we chatted last week about Arena agentic evals, and now Fable is by far the #1 on the agentic evals, right? As well on Arena. So, would love to hear from you a little bit of your experience with Fable since it launched.
Yeah, so I was lucky enough to just not have to pay out of my own pocket and just use agent mode with employee access to Fable. So that was nice. I'll show you a few tests. I just opened a couple, just kind of at random. So this one is something I particularly liked. And you can see the prompt here, and it's basically saying, just research some impressive data set, visualize it, teach me about it, that kind of thing. And that kind of stuff just never used to work. It just was like, it was not even worth trying. And this to me feels just like done. You know, I maybe if I think hard, maybe I can give some suggestions to how to improve it, but this just looks amazing to me. Yeah, so that's like one example of the thing that it does well. Then, you know, all of these 3D generations, that's always fun. And I'm not showing side by side, but I can tell you this is the most accurate, coherent, like all the elements make sense.
That is crazy.
Nodes connect. Yeah, so much of this, like previous ones did okay, and then you look at it as like, oh yeah, things don't really make sense, and yeah, but this one actually comes together as a city, so that's really cool. Grand Budapest Hotel here, it's like amazing. What else can you expect, really? Just like things moving around and so on. So this almost feels like, I don't know, it's kind of solved. Not like entirely. I had a few generations that were like worse than this, but for the most part, this is just amazing. I didn't feel like it was that good at like games. I know a few people were showing some great gaming examples. I didn't feel like mine were coming out very well. There's still this kind of sloppiness about just games not actually being games, and just kind of, I don't know, you're kind of moving around in simulation or something. So I definitely had that. But yeah, a lot of impressive stuff here. Maybe I'll mention the agent leaderboard. So we are very timely released from us in terms of getting the leaderboard from the agent arena. And the way it works is basically what I showed you, in terms of you can put in a prompt and then can research, and like you can do code, you can do kind of knowledge-based tasks, things like that. And then what we do is, it's not kind of side-by-side. Like if you use Arena, that's how we normally do it. Kind of you get two responses, you don't know which model is which and so on. But in here, you just get the response, and then we kind of monitor more and assess more kind of implicit, and there is a button to say like you explicitly like it or not. But otherwise, we monitor more implicit signals, like whether you've downloaded it, whether you like interacted with it, whether it like hallucinated any tools, things like that. So it's like in here, we can see the net improvement here, which is kind of composite of other terms, is really, really high here. And actually, maybe Wolfram, I think you mentioned at the beginning is, or maybe a few people mentioned is steerability here is actually really low. So that's something we're picking up as well. Let me just find this in here. Oh yeah,
what does that mean, by the way? What is the steerability mean?
Yeah, so one way that we measure it is basically, let me get this right. If you are kind of asking for something, and then the way you kind of, what does the follow-up look like? Basically, did it do what you asked it to do, or are you asking it again, kind of thing? So, and in here, oh yeah, Fable is like 17th on that. So we're going to keep an eye on this. This is quite early score as well, and we want to like see if the methodology is really coming through. But so far, there's kind of, I would say, matches what you guys been saying. This is kind of cleaner view of this, so it's like really by far the better one. And maybe let me show you, this is kind of our slightly older arena, but it really comes through here, is in terms of the front end design. So not just design, but kind of front end of the app. So people would kind of generate these either websites or little apps or something, and they can compare side by side. And then Fable here is just smashing it completely, even versus like Opus models. And if you look at it like that, in terms of what's the win rate, it's 72% of the time it wins the battle. So, which is like insane.
All right, so here I want to add kind of like my attempt with Fable as well. Obviously, folks, you know that I don't do any production coding, but what I do is to try to bring you like the best like Thursday news as well. And I have to try out all these models. What I tried Fable on is a very long task, and I'm like very excited about this as well. Peter, one of the stuff that Arena maybe doesn't test fully is long horizon tasks. You're just getting to there with the agents, right? But I think what folks are focusing on this model and they're saying about this model is that it's really good at those like very, very long, handle it out, like do agentic stuff, task on your own. And I tried one such task, and I want to show you because I think it was just incredible. So what I asked out of Fable, and luckily this didn't fail, is go to the ThursdAI website where we have a wealth of knowledge, right? We've been covering all the releases, all the news for the past 3.5 years. And try to extract some knowledge out of it. And I didn't give it too many instructions. Here's what it did. After an hour and a half of running agentically, Fable extracted all of the releases we ever talked about and put them in a timeline. Folks, I want you to look at this, because this is a wealth of knowledge we have here on the show. We cover everything in the TLDR. Here's a timeline of AI releases based on month. If you scroll down, it's based on company as well. So you can see we talked about OpenAI a lot, and Google DeepMind and Anthropic are the three top ones, and Alibaba Quen. And then by topic, it categorized over 165 episodes and extracted all the releases. And when you go into a timeline, let's say what was in May, you can see this beautiful UI. It added the model kind of company logos here. It added a category for this is a new model. This is, it added links to the sources. This is just absolutely incredible. The amount of information Fable had to chew through to get here is, I think I burned around 50 million tokens for this. It just had to read all of the information, process it, write a little bit of a description, and then you can go from here to the actual company and see. We talked about OpenBB in February, and then before we talked about it in May. If we go to, let's say, Microsoft, let's see what we talked about Microsoft. MAI Thinking, MAI Code, MAI Image 2.5 as well. In April, we talked about Delegate and MAI Transcribe. I was absolutely, let me state this fully, I was absolutely blown away by the result. It wasn't entirely one shot. I had to ask it for this one thing to maybe collect some things, but it was an incredible thing that it did and extracted the wealth of knowledge. It ran for over an hour and a half. It read all of the things. Now, the way that I did this is with a dynamic workflow in Cloud Code. We told you about the dynamic workflows. As far as everybody from Anthropic, as I understand, they recommend, if you have the money for it, using dynamic workflows in Cloud Code for Fable. Fable is really good at orchestrating sub-agents to do its task as well. And then in terms of web design, so first of all, this all looks great. And then in terms of web design, I asked Fable to design an episode for itself, right? So if you go to a regular kind of Thursday episode, we have a very standard thing that Opus came up with. We have the episode overview, we have the show notes here in transcript, and then we have a player. This is a very standard kind of episode, how it looks on the Thursday episode with the guests. I asked Fable to design its own episode for today. So here it is. I want to show you, this is it designed 3 different versions and then joined them into one. So this is Claude Fable and Mythos 5. It added a toggle here for Mythos and Fable, because Mythos and Fable are the same model, but Mythos is unrestricted view. It added kind of a bunch of information here. So Mythos Fable is 59 on Humanities Last Exam with no tools. It jumps it from 8% to 88% in Firefox exploits. Obviously, we told you about how strongly cybersecurity this model is. It added Peter and Wolfram and Nistan. We need to add Yam and LDJ here as well, and added our guests here, as you can see. And then we have beautiful, this is the level of web design, Peter, that you're talking about. We have this beautiful on this episode stuff here with the breakdowns. Here we have the Anthropic kind of breakdown as well. Let's see what else we have. For some reason, we have this beautiful card that looks like a system card, because I read the system card for Fable. Key numbers we have here, 80% on Swyx Pro, 29% of Frontier Code Diamond. They claim that only 0.3% are silently degraded. We will talk about the silently degraded stuff. I would absolutely agree that this is by far the best model that I've seen on web design. This does not look like the regular web design. It did 3 automations, and I'm very, very excited about this. Folks, you can check it out by yourself on the Thursday website, which is now new, has the timeline and the self Fable 5 designed page. Alrighty, who else? What else did you run? Nistan, you ran the Mars escape thing. I would love to see our folks also who follow the show know that every model that drops, we run Nistan's escape Mount Olympus Mons from Mars. Do you have an example for us? Hey, muted, Nistan. Oh,
you're muted. We can't hear you.
Yeah. Double
muted. Yeah. By far the best one. It even started calculating if you can, how many solar panels and stuff you can put on Mars. it put.
Oh wait, you're not showing us. Let's put up.
Not
There we go. Yeah, let's go. You're showing now. It was
yeah. You can even calculate how many. I was even able to build stuff like let's just go to I don't know, low Earth orbit, and then we launch, and then it built the whole planet like as an actual planet, and it made it like a game where you can have autopilot and control it overall, and you can change this to cargo or other type of stuff, and there's sound effects too.
So just to add to this, Nista, what you're showing is not like, hey, build a 3D. Oh, what? It's climbing and going down. What was that?
It became a roller coaster. All right, it's not perfect.
Yeah.
But so now it will attempt to go. Oh, and it built the whole solar system.
Are you serious?
Yeah. So you have all the other planets.
This is okay.
We'll try to go to Earth, and you can zoom in, and So now it will attempt like an orbital maneuver. It's insane. It's on another level. There's Jupiter over there. I don't know if people can see it in the compressed one. And I've posted this on Twitter. People can play around with it and continue making it into a game.
This is crazy. This is absolutely crazy.
Yeah, this is
Let's
insane.
just tell folks like what we're talking about here. The Mount Olympus Mons kind of like prompt that Nissan has been testing is all about math and whether or not the LLM can calculate the right like escape velocity speed that the like a rail needs to have on Mars, right? Only at some point later you added the hey, make this like a visual simulator. At no point though we haven't seen this level of detail. This is absolutely crazy.
It gets crazy. If I add more rail cars, it makes the space train longer, and then I can go and launch again. So now I have like a much longer train, and it even put like little people in there. This is just on another level. Oh, and you can speed up time and slow it down too. Yeah, it's completely different level from anything else.
I love how it goes under the mountain. It probably like decided that it needs to build a
you got to tunnel through through some of it, and then it will try to do different orbits and stuff. Oh, and then you can even fire up the rocket Anyway, we've compared this to all the other models for the rest of the audience here, and this one is completely nuts. Like it will do full out calculations of how much this will cost, so you can do a whole build and cost thing, like how many solar panels and how much in situ iron utilization. This is someone who's into physics or astronomy or terraforming. Like this is the best thing ever.
And you didn't get a refusal while building this, right? Like it built it out properly.
Yeah, for Martian stuff, no. For anything anatomy related, medical related, I had to change and remove medical and anatomy terms from my app in order for it to even work.
So I think it's time for us to talk about the kind of the refusals. While this model is like Mythos class model and it's absolutely mugging everything on pretty much every benchmark that we tested it on, or at least we saw. It's not all of them. Obviously, the instruction following is not the best one. Anthropic released this model after telling everybody that it's too dangerous to release, and we thought maybe it's marketing, maybe it's not that good. It kind of feels that good after a while. Folks, I think we're in agreement that this is like a big step up, but they released it with heavy guardrails, very heavy guardrails. So let's talk about them. Yama, I want to hear your thoughts. Let me just like preface this with the fact that Anthropic originally said everything about cybersecurity is locked in Fable. So Fable 5 and Mythos 5 are the same model, same weights. Mythos 5 is only available in the Project Glasswing that they have offering to different companies to do cybersecurity protection. But if you try to ask Fable 5 anything about cybersecurity, anything about bio or medicine, anything about frontier AI research, which is the worst one we have to talk about, it will refuse. And for the first 24 hours, they also wanted to silently refuse without even telling you and just silently degrade the quality of the model responses. that got such a big outcry that they reversed course just like less than 12 hours ago. But yeah, I want to hear your thoughts about the restrictions that we got and whether or not it's better to have access to Fable with restrictions or not have access at all.
I just want to say that it's a little bit convenient that as soon as you got a deal for to source some extra compute, all of a sudden it's not dangerous anymore. I just want to put this out there. All right. I'm just saying, I think we just got the model. Maybe we got a little bit of a guardrail on it, and maybe the guardrail had, I don't know, started as a little bit too much, and it might be reduced. Let's just put the whole PR campaign over it and just speak about, to the subject itself. The model is great. Seriously, I mean, it's just great as marketed. Even more, in my opinion. It feels just. I just posted this on X. It's crazy that Fable Low is better than Opus Extra High on nearly everything. I mean, there is not even overlap.
It's not an incremental step. It feels like a step function step across many of the tasks that we have, and also cost-wise, right? Because like I've been burning 2 tokens like almost immediately. The task that I showed you with extracting the timelines finished my 5-hour allotment from the max tier in an hour and a half. That's it. Like it was just gone.
Sounds like AI in 2026.
Yeah.
You fire one prompt, that's it, rate limit. That's how it is today. I just want to say, it's a completely different experience than the competitor models that are more kind of like fire and forget, work for long. Here, most of the things are, we measure the model by one-shotting crazy things. And I think it's worth mentioning the 2 sides of this. Models that go and solve very, very hard extreme. I mean, even if you are Fable and so on and so forth, there are tasks where you need to just debug and generate traces and things that just inherently going to take a lot of steps. And it's worth thinking about which model is good for which case. I'm not saying that Fable is not good. It is absolutely great. I'm just saying we haven't seen yet, probably because everyone is burning their rate limits, but we haven't seen yet like a full day run of Fable doing something, and it's worth mentioning.
So reporting happened where like folks got access to obviously Mythos before via Glasswing, but also to Fable as well. Stripe ported a nearly 1 million line code base into a different language by running for like 24 hours with Fable and multiple agents. We've seen reports of this as well. I don't know if we have like here, but folks are doing big refactorings and Fable just like eats them. It does feel like we're getting to a point where kind of the regular tests that we have, the one-shot things, the games, the little things are not utilizing the strength of this model. This model is strong at the long horizon, long-running tasks, specifically by spinning up a bunch of it loves spinning sub-agents. This is crazy. Like I asked it something, 7 sub-agents spun up and all of them are spending money. I was like, whoa. I just asked you to go read Twitter. I don't need another sub-agent reading Twitter. It definitely is trained for this next like loop engineering type thing as well. LDJ, you had comments as well. I want to hear from you about kind of the comments that you see specifically around frontier AI research. Folks, let's talk about this. Anthropic felt like for a second they're pulling up the ladder behind them. Let's talk about like what this means for the open source community. Many people, especially Will Brown from like Prime Intelligence, talked about the fact that like they cannot trust these models as tools anymore because suddenly this model will fake responses. I really want to like open this up on Thursday.
Yeah, I feel like it is unfortunate for sure that we're not able to use it for such things and it'll downgrade to Opus or just not even tell us when it's going to downgrade its behavior essentially. But It's something you were saying earlier on the show about, hey, would we rather have the model with these guardrails or not have the model at all, just like was the case for most of the past 3 months when we knew Mythos existed and we didn't have access. I think I would prefer to have just limited access as opposed to no access at all. And I know I feel like most people would truly choose that, or what I just said, they would choose that as well when it really comes down to it. But I feel like a lot of people are acting almost the opposite, like as if they rather go back to how it was a month ago, you know?
Yeah, definitely true. Nistin, your thoughts about the restricting the AI frontier? We barely mentioned this, but I think last week Anthropic released a blog post about recursive, RSI, recursive engineering, and whether or not the model that builds itself is here. And Anthropic basically said, hey, if it was possible to pause without other companies charging ahead, we would essentially pause right now. And so Anthropic now releases a model that is a step function higher. I remember just a few moments on Thursday that we've covered the model of such a step function. Like all our faces are now like super, not super exciting, maybe because it didn't drop just now on the show, but it is an insane model. It does things. It writes well. Like the distances. I think it's very important, Peter. We talked about this. It's very important to see the delta between the previous models and this model on benchmarks. Not only the numbers on benchmarks, the numbers are state of the art across everything. It's important to see how much stronger it is on benchmarks because they're getting saturated as well. And then Anthropic is so far ahead that they're saying, hey, this is essentially our way to pause. You cannot use this model to train other models in open source. You cannot use it to still. Luckily, it's no longer silent refusals, but I think it still means a lot to talk about. Like what in this context, what is important and how can people trust their tools? I, for example, got refusals all over the place by just running Thursday content. And I don't know how people who can actually decide to pay for these tools can trust this model to be there. Nist, I want to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, we're at a very interesting singularity event horizon point right now that, okay, let's cover the bad side of the Anthropic release. There was a lot of hate pretty much from the community. One was the terms of service had changed, where they can hold some stuff for 2 years and some stuff for 7 years. Also, it's unclear now whether they can train on the data that they hold from their official privacy policy. Anything that involves any kind of neural net, for example, in my case, it's like a fall detection and post-detection thing for seniors' homes, because that's what I'm doing now. And that had a tiny little neural weight, which is 400 kilobytes. And that threw it off. So a lot of people are like, come on, this is becoming too much now. It feels like there's something else going on. My opinion on that is that we're getting to the point where most of the business value and things like healthcare, law, accounting, and even other basic business processing parts, they can be done by like a 30B model, a 27B or a 30B. They're almost there. They're not quite there. The agentic ability is still a bit unreliable. But yeah, when it comes to things like bookkeeping, holding inventory, looking at X-rays, the small models are becoming good enough where they can cover most of the economic utility of AI in general. Now, there's still amazing room for growth, but it puts the companies to an interesting spot where they're like, if we're going to have further going economic value and justify that to our investors, do we still let competitors make a lot of small models? And this is extremely interesting because, again, for any government or any place, 2/3 of your budget, and usually end up being healthcare and education, you don't need a frontier model for that. You can just use an open source stuff. So
now,
what?
I want to ask you. Sorry to interrupt. Like, what is Anthropic so afraid of to put such strong restrictions on bio and defense?
They are right in some ways, because a lot of cybersecurity, the practices are really bad, have been over the years. So I've even seen banking apps over the last 10 years post their entire source tree, post stuff. So people don't have good cybersecurity discipline in the first place. So an LLM is pretty easy for them to exploit that, and something that has good agentic ability. So they are right in that regard on the cybersecurity. And I'd say on stuff like making viruses and things too, sure. But this feels like it's a lot more than just that.
So this is from the system card on Anthropic that I read and posted a thread about. With many previous models, we're treating Mythos 5 as CB1 and applying ASL 3 protection for Fable 5, including blocking classifiers against CB1 misuse. CB is their chemo and bio weapon kind of training. Still, we think that Mythos 5 is near the border of our threshold. Basically, what Anthropic is saying here about CB2 is that the ability of model to create chemical and biological weapons is very, very close. Like Mythos, not Fable. Fable is Mythos level, but with refusals. Mythos can be very close at creating novel bioweapons. Not existing bioweapons, just like make them for you and give you instructions, like novel bioweapons. And Anthropic is saying basically Mythos is very, very close. And the reason why they got there is because it was able to create solutions to like 6 out of 18 problems that it posted faster than let me just say, call this out, okay? At the end of this exercise, 2 of the 3 generalist biologist teams outperformed all 3 specialist teams on both scientific and quality and feasibility, suggesting that access to Claude Mythos 5 nullified the difference in specialist knowledge. Expert graders estimated without AI tools, the strategies and implementation protocols developed by teams would have taken 40 to 95 working days to produce. With Mythos 5, the 2-person teams accomplishes in just 16 hours. Anthropic is showing that generalist chemists, generalist scientists can get to the level of experts within 16 hours, and this model is basically destroying the capability gap, the knowledge gap between experts and generalists. And with this model, they can get into the threshold of crossing the novel cures, diseases, but also novel bioweapons stuff. And I think that that's like very, very telling and interesting. And this is why they're restricting a lot of it. Let's talk about coding as well. I think we have our friend Swyx here. Let me add him to the stage because Swyx, welcome back to the show. Folks know Swyx as the host of Latent Space, co-host of Latent Space, advisor to Cognition as well. And Frontier Code is something that you guys launched. And then within 24 hours, Claude Fable 5 took the #1 spot on Frontier Code. We're just like talking about the different, how should I say, reactions on Fable 5 from ourselves. Would love to hear from you. First of all, your reaction, your gut feelings about this model, and then we can talk about like the Frontier Code capability jump as a step function, almost jump in Frontier Code.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a internal AGI count inside of Cognition, which is basically just inside of Slack, grouped by weeks, the number of times AGI is said. And
so
then,
just like folks mentioning the word like this is AGI?
Yeah. And so like the Mythos count was like the highest it was ever been, and I think during the testing period it's like really interesting to see, because like, for a while there was some testing, and then they took it out for Glasswing, and then people were actually sad to lose the model, which I think is like the biggest sign of like every time you have a new frontier model, you start to rely on it a lot, and then once you if it's ever gone, like you miss it, and you like your programming skills atrophy and all those things. And so I think it's really, really interesting from that point of view.
It is ridiculous. Let me just pause here for just a second, because I felt this yesterday. Opus 4.8 is a great model. It was a great model yesterday and the day before. And now the second that I see this little notification like, hey, we detected something that we don't like, and now we fell you back to Opus 4.8, I feel like I've been like artificially dumbed down. And it's been a day. I have no idea like what's going on and how are we so hedonistically adapting super quick. Maybe it's all in our heads, but it's been taken away from cog engineers and they've been sad. But now it's back. So tell us about kind of like,
to be clear, like if you haven't been part of this process, I think it's quite interesting. Like they're all released under code name. You have no idea what you're testing. They just give you a code name and then you just like try and figure it out. And they give models all the time, take it back. Like, you know, it's a part of like, you know, try this out. They see, you know, is this good? Not good? Okay, we'll take a different one. So you actually don't even know. Yeah, I mean, you know, and very long running, also slower. I think. So we obviously don't have pricing before the launch, but like I was like quite positively surprised it's only 2x price. I think it could have been easily 5x, and I think it'd be good. And then yeah, I mean, I think Frontier Code is something that Cognition's been working on, like started work on it like a year ago. Basically, you know, like wanting the next set of evals. So Cognition every year has a different sort of eval set. Like the first year was Cognition Golden, which is what the company launched with. Then there was a thing called Junior Dev, which got some publicity last year. And this year, you know, they have me for naming, so I named it Frontier Code, which seems to have a little bit more aura. And it's just working on really hard problems, you know, going up to dozens of hours of real human work per task. And then on top of that, getting the maintainers to also label and study the trajectories of coding agents and evaluate and add more rubrics. So I think the sort of main headline is like you want quality in the tasks, because a lot of solutions to tasks are just hacky solutions that pass the test, but you would actually never merge it.
I think there was a small call out that you did for Swyx verified, I believe, or even
I feel bad because like they're actually like John and Carlos are like quite friendly with me, and so I feel bad like always dumping on them, but like they're kind of the punching bag right now.
Yeah, but can you tell us on air like what Frontier Math does that Swyx kind of didn't do or didn't quite do?
Frontier Math is the Epoch AI one, which obviously we use that as inspiration for the name for Frontier Code. So like very simply, there's a few dimensions in which there's been improvements, right? So did you know that Swyx is like 75% Django issues? So like it just tests your ability to memorize the Django repo. And so like it's obviously started with Python. They have multilingual, multimodal versions. But if you look at the distributions that we publish for Frontier Code, there's a lot more like real world stuff, including C++ and C# and Java, and, you know, stuff that like you wouldn't really prioritize unless you're really focused on the sort of customer distribution there. I think it's one of the other charts. This one's interesting. Okay, so this one's a little bit spicy. We almost didn't publish this one because there's like some people at the team, they were like, oh, you know, we got to be nice to our friends. Like, anyway, so we ran independent evals on like the results of Swyx Pro and DeepSwy versus Frontier Code. It's a thing that we acknowledge calling trajectory analysis, but we did not go into details on purpose. But we think that a lot of the solutions are false positives in that they pass, but they're not actually like mergeable or like legitimate. And so like I think it's a lot of like, and we published some examples of those trajectories below in the blog post. But you really have to just look at the data. And we had you know, Cog employees like just do like a trajectory reading party, which is kind of fun.
Can you pause here? Sorry to interrupt. Can you pause and tell folks who are listening what the hell is a trajectory reading party and why Cog employees reading transcripts actually helps this eval be better?
It's not the official name. It's just like it's very comical. I'm picturing the guy Dennis, one of the researchers, just staring at me, going like these trajectories suck. So basically, just eyeball them and like look for unusual things and like reward hacky things that you would normally not accept, right? Like I think that a lot of the times a slop benchmark would just kind of like look at the start and the end, and if it passes the end, like it's great. But like you also want to see like the process and the sort of quality of the reasoning. I think that's I mean, there's simple ways to translate what you see in the trajectories to rubrics that you can grade on the end result. So are you touching the right files? Are you touching files all across the code base that you have no business doing? That's a very simple one. But also, are you writing like reasonable tests? Are you following like styling and linting guidelines and all these things? So I think those are some of the ones I can point to. But really, I do think like everyone should do this. Everyone who builds an agent, everyone who builds an eval, you should just read trajectories. And I interviewed the Endon Labs guys, the guys who do Vending Bench.
Vending Bench, yeah.
And they just use Slack. They read through the trajectories and they find interesting stories that like are more about the behavior and the character and the personality of the models, which is going to come through in qualitative ways that we haven't quantified yet. And so I think a lot of the process of making frontier evals is looking for things that are not yet quantified and trying to quantify them.
I got it. Okay, so let's talk about.
Is there a way for anyone else to run this, or people that are
not
trying
yet?
to train their model?
Not yet. We didn't get it ready for publishing in time. I don't know if that's we don't have an internal policy on what we're going to publish because we haven't agreed on it. I'm pushing to open source Frontier Code main, not Diamond, because I believe that people should be able to run it on their own stuff. I have feelers out to third-party eval platforms that would run it independently for us, and then obviously Anthropic had it.
Can you first of all, congrats on the success? Like the new benchmark just launched, and then Anthropic added this to the release notes of of Fable 5. Could you tell us a little bit different? What's the main one? What's the diamond one? What is the difference, and why create kind of two benchmarks?
Three tiers. It's very, very common practice. GPQA has 3 tiers. Frontier Math has 4 tiers. Yeah, I mean, even Swyx has Swyx Lite. It's just like you want to slice the evals by difficulty level, and so that you can kind of understand different grades of model challenge. Let's just call it. So I would just say, like, for example, last year's models would be more relevant for Frontier Code Extended, the full set, whereas this and next year's models will probably be focused on Diamond. Main is kind of like the blend of the two.
Main is the blend of the two. All right, Swyx. So okay, let's talk about the big thing in the room. You guys released the benchmark that was completely changed a day after, 24 hours after you released kind of it publicly. Fable 5 took kind of the absolutely state of the art on the main one. I think on Diamond as well. Talk to us about whether or not this was surprising. Talk to us about, like, do you guys know, collaborate? Some folks are saying potentially, how are you adding this benchmark that was just released 24 hours in your releases?
Still them. No, there's no. I wish there was payment. No, this is so I started work on this a year ago. I joined the team about 6 months ago, and then it just happened to line up. And we did give Anthropic the evals ahead of time, as in like this weekend, not like not like please train on our evals. No, like so I think that is all, like, I mean, like, as you might expect. So I don't know if I'm answering your question precisely. I know you have to jump to Thor.
Yeah, no, like we have some time. I do wanna talk to you about the public outcry on Fable as well. So folks know.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, obviously we had no idea on like the usage restriction type stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's very interesting. It is they're right under capitalism, right? Like it is your IP.
Yeah.
You get to decide what to do with it. You get to decide what license you put on it, and people can opt in or opt out. And if you don't like it, nationalize the labs, right? Like I said this for like many years of like, you get the wins of private funding, doing this in a hyper capitalist place that like no other country has. But you also get the downside of like, yes, the organizations are power seeking, and they will have their judgments as to what is safe and what is not safe, and you will have to abide by it because there's no other higher authority here, at least not yet. But I think it's all well and good. I do think that like I feel like the outcry. I'm kind of leaning on Anthropic side. Like I feel like the outcry.
Ooh, hot take from Swyx.
I feel like the outcry from the open people, like obviously like Jeremy Howard and who like Fei Li, they all chimed in, and I'm like, well, guys, like, come on, it's not that deep. Like all this will be public in Chinese models in like 1 to 2 years. Like it's not that deep, guys.
I specifically want to focus on the question on having a model as a tool that you can trust that suddenly can degrade its performance, and whether or not Frontier Code experience that as well. Right? Yeah, 100%. We talked about this in the beginning, but that's kind of like a fairly new reversal. But I want to ask about like, and we have 3 folks here who are doing evals. Like Wolfram is doing Wolfbench, Swyx now with Frontier Code, obviously doing a bunch of other stuff, but you're in the hat of Frontier Code here on the show for at least today. Peter from Arena.
Frontier Conference, which has Frontier Code.
Yes, we'll talk about AI engineering in just a second. I really do want to talk about this. But for a model that is supposed to be kind of like a tool to help things, degrading performance probably was not the right kind of choice. It looks like the reverse course, but you think the outcry help, or like how did they decide to reverse course? In your opinion, do you think they also watch Twitter? I saw Dario Amode post finally about like he doesn't follow anyone, but he does post apparently. Do you think the public outcry helped?
I mean, look, they care about their about their image and presence and all those things, and I think what they reverse course on wasn't that big anyway, and it's just like making a silent thing not silent. Yeah. And it wasn't that silent in the first place. Like you were explicitly opted out to Opus anyway, right? Like, so I don't think it's like that big of a deal.
It was worse than this, dude. It was based on their system card that I read. They would degrade the model answers without telling you. Like the model would be dumbing down. People said they changed hyperparameters for the like model tuning. It would not like refuse to do it. It would just like do the thing dumber. And
yeah, well, so that was bad. Call, bad UX, obviously, and they fixed it. Great, but like at the same time, like I do think like it is a sign of like how they believe. I think it's consistent with past actions and how they believe like they want to be careful about models and distillation. Because they don't want to enable Chinese competitors and maybe US competitors. Yeah. And I think that's perfectly fair. Like, I mean, outside of AI, lots of companies do that for competitors, including like, Uber famously had like this blackball program where there were some like geofence competitors. it's like really funny. Like, like this is nothing compared to like really old school Silicon Valley lore of competition. Like, this. So yeah, I mean, it is like not ideal, and Anthropic has done things like pull model access without notice on potential competitors, right? But is their right? It's absolutely their right, and I'll defend their right.
Yeah, is it right under capitalism? The question is whether or not they broke trust enough for people to completely not use them, or we asked this question in the beginning of the show: would you rather have access to Mythos 5 with the restrictions of Fable, or not have access at all? It feels like all of us are in agreement that would like to have access.
Is you get Pliny the Elder to go jailbreak the thing, right? And then you have full access to real Mythos or something.
Yeah.
There's a magic sequence of tokens that you can feed in that will undo the
restrictions.
I'm curious, what do you guys think? Is this it now? Is Anthropic not going to have any models that you can just use? Are they going to carry on with like Opus line? Because like 2 years later, what's the model going to be like?
I think they're probably going to loosen restrictions a little bit compared to what it's currently at. I think it probably makes sense from their viewpoint to have it overly restricted on initial launch and then remove things slowly, as opposed to having things under restricted on launch and then slowly adding things. So yeah, I think that's where things are probably going to be headed. But also, I'm really curious how things would look like for private partnerships where, what if there's alignment researchers or mech-interp researchers at Google and OpenAI, they're like, hey, we think we could use Fable to help us with automated alignment research. Like, will Anthropic be like, hey, yeah, we care about safety, we want to help you guys out, we'll give you that access? Or we'll be like, no, we're not even going to allow you to use the model to do that stuff.
I think I agree, LDJ. I think the restrictions for the public, for us, for API developers, they will go down. I think that it's important to remember that Mythos 5 is available with the project Glasswing to many of these companies. Many of these companies use Mythos. I have been using Mythos. Firefox, famously, like obviously Google, and they CrowdStrike, the one that like is running on every employee computer, including mine, to protect me supposedly. Like all of these companies have access via Glasswing, and that's like Mythos unrestricted for protection purposes. I think do we have still Swyx or Swyx froze? We have Swyx still.
Yeah,
Swyx,
yeah.
Before we drop and kind of continue chatting, I do want to mention that also, hey, this is not your first time on the pod. Last time you were here, we were both in London chatting about, whether or not developers should
London
still read
went
code.
so well. Oh my god, yeah.
And I do want to ask you about the upcoming AI Engineer one. Could you talk to us about AI Engineer World's Fair that's coming in, a few weeks? Stress level from you, and also tell us about like what's going on here. Like what are we about to see?
Yeah, stress level very high. This is basically our largest conference is San Francisco, of course. We double every year. So last year we were 3,000, now we're 6,000, and it looks
6,000
like
people. Jesus Christ.
And every lab, and I think that what's interesting about this is really it's so each room I have is 500 people, and I have 12 of these rooms. So it's 500 times 12 is 6. I'm basically running like 12 simultaneous conferences for 3 days. It feels it's a lot.
Yeah.
We're staffed up, and like fortunately the sponsors, like CoreWeave have been really kind to support us. But still, like defining what is like what people should look forward to. Adding the founder track, adding the data buyer track, which you see there, adding verticals like healthcare. These are things where like I am basically nudging the industry towards like you should pay attention to these things, right? We have a forward deployed engineering track for the first time. We split normally we have a single GPUs track. We split that into pre-train, post-train, and inference separately across the 3 days. New memory learning, continual learning track, auto research track. Basically, as a content curator, or as I create this platform for other people to show their work. And I think like I am very aggressive in pushing like what is the agenda for the year, and hopefully this is it.
Yeah. So I think the very interesting part about like AI Engineer is that it started with a subset of folks who realized that without AI engineering is not a thing anymore, and now every engineer is an AI engineer. Like I think there's not a lot of people who don't use agentic tooling anymore. So now it's very interesting to see how the program evolved. And I think what folks should notice, and maybe they omit noticing, is the tracks that you choose, and also the coverage and kind of the vibes from the hallway track that we try to cover on ThursdAI, and we and folks on Twitter obviously are like covering as well.
I can give you some alpha on like things that didn't work. So I had an AI product management track. So the idea was like start with engineer and then go to all the adjacent ones.
Yeah.
So we went from engineer to researcher, engineer to product. Products, I've killed product track this year. I tried to kill voice, and I brought back voice. There's too many good voice speakers.
Yeah.
Which I know Alex will like because he's a voice guy.
Oh, 100%. And I think there's an amazing segue to add Thor Shafe from Google DeepMind to talk
Thor
about.
has a workshop. I gave him a big ass workshop, yeah, I mean, there's lots of honestly, Gemini has been doing a lot of good voice stuff. I saw the translate thing that you guys shipped yesterday, 2 days ago, and
Yeah.
it YOLO'd it into the website. Then I realized it's only translate. It doesn't respond. Like, it only translates what you say, which is like not super helpful for me. But yeah, like, I'm having fun like in incorporating all these things, and then there's many things I wish I could add, but I didn't. So for example, AI in legal, AI in education. There's education has a kids angle as well. So I don't have kids, but I think a lot of us are parents, and a lot of us are aspiring parents. So there will be actually a separate AIE Kids Day the day before the event that some parents are
I heard
organizing.
about that. I wish I could
because
bring my kids there. I think it's super
every
cool.
parent wants to obviously figure out how to bring up their kids in this new age. So yeah, I think the main idea is AIE will be the sort of top industry conference that people is like learn what's going on, meet their friends, and even increasingly start to share research. We have poster sessions for the first time, as well as buy data, which will be the sort of preview for AIE Data, which is a conference that I'm incubating.
I think the most important question is, will the AGI pills be back?
Yes.
Yes.
And we have more good swag. So one of my favorite moments is like, because I can just like change anything I want in the thing, right? So the water stations where there's water, I have a calculation of 1 cup of water equals to 720 ChatGPT queries. So just
to try to dispel the myth of data centers' use of water. I love it. Well, we'll be there covering AI Engineer World's Fair. It's in 3 weeks. Swyx, we know you're a busy dude. Thank you so much for coming up and talking about Frontier Code.
Thanks,
and AI Engineer. We'll obviously be covering this live. I'll have a talk there as well. Thor has Wolfram is talking as well. We're all over.
Wolfbench.
Yeah, talk about Wolfbench.
Yeah, just collecting all the good folks and giving them a stage.
I cannot imagine what that speaker's dinner is going to look like. Everyone who's ever done anything in AI.
We bought out SF MoMA, and so we're gonna. It's it's a nice venue.
Yeah.
And then also we bought out the World Cup box seat. So July 1st is the last San Francisco game, which is probably going to be a Team USA game, because Team USA is like the highest ranked country in Group D, which is their group. So yeah,
wow.
I mean, we told everyone to organize watch parties. Like it's impossible to organize 6,000 people to do any one thing.
Yes. Folks, if you're flying out for your engineer, book your hotel right now. I think it's already getting a little bit too late. World Cup
hotel. We have hotel room block discounts that expire, I think, this Sunday. So get it if you can. And, if not, you can sleep on the streets like other San Franciscans.
just find the couch. Find the couch. All right, Swyx, thank you so much. We'll chat with you more, kind of, I think, on the engineer if you'll have time. But folks, look out for our coverage. If you cannot make it, we try to do our best to tell you about what's going on. Obviously, with 16 tracks and 3 days is going to be nearly impossible. We'll try anyway. Swyx, thank you so much for coming up, folks. Check out Frontier Code, and obviously go listen to Latent Space. Thanks for coming, man, and thanks for giving us a layup for the voice part. And now we have Thor Shafe from Google DeepMind, developer experience on Google DeepMind. Thor, you guys also released something, and I really wanted to bring you on and talk about this, and maybe a demo. So, as Swyx mentioned, it's very important to me. Voice and stuff is very important to me. Live Translate is something that I've been very excited about for a very long time. Could you tell us about the release this week and kind of why it's important and what's cool about it?
Yeah, no, thanks so much for having me on. Appreciate it. Also, a big shout out to Swyx and AI Engineering Conf. We're very excited to be back for World's Fair as well. And even if you can't make it, all the talks are going to be on YouTube, and big kudos for that as well. Swyx is really big on just recording everything and having it available to everyone later on, which is really awesome. Yeah. Live Translate. It's funny. Swyx was like, "Oh, the model doesn't reply." So, yes, it is. Different from kind of a turn-taking agentic sort of real-time conversational model. It's actually sort of its own a new class of model, which is basically real-time continuously streaming as you speak. And so there's no turns, which actually makes the pricing interesting, because you're kind of like, okay, there's no turns. What's like input versus output? So you're just kind of continuously sort of burning tokens in a way as you're speaking. But what's really fun, I was actually listening to the podcast earlier, just in German. So we actually have, if you want to try it out yourself, in Google AI Studio, we have the demo where you can just plug in the source of a browser tab. And so basically, yeah, I think I put it in here. So if you go to like AI Studio / live, and then select the model, which is Gemini 3.5 Live Translate Preview, you can select the audio source of a browser tab. And obviously, if you're listening live to this live stream, you can select the audio source of the live stream and then say, I want to listen to this in German. And so I was listening to the Biowaffen conversation earlier, just in German, which was very interesting to see. Yes.
I wonder if we can do a demo somehow, because I don't think I can, because I'm doing the streaming. So I feel there's gonna be like a fallback. Thor, is it any chance you can like see if you can give us a demo of that? I think it's gonna be very, very interesting. Even if you're live streaming something else, or from the YouTube, etc.
Yeah. So this is a good point. Let's try this. We'll see how this goes. So if I share my screen. So we can go to AI Studio. Can you see that now?
Yes, you're on.
Okay, so and you can see, so this was kind of the podcast conversation earlier. So basically what the model does...
and this is in AI Studio from Google.
Yes, so this is in AI Studio. And what you can do is you can share audio from a tab. And I think I can now share the StreamYard audio. Now the only problem is that I'm going to be speaking. So let's see if there's.
I think what you should do, Thor, if you don't mind. If I speak, will hear me translated?
Well, so the problem is now, okay, obviously it defaults to wanting to convert to English. So I think we have a good amount of Germans here.
I can speak in Russian if you want, and then we'll see if the English is picking up.
Yeah, let's do that. Actually, we can all speak in our own languages. And so we also have a toggle which is called echo target language. So basically, because the model automatically recognizes which language is being spoken and then translates that into the target language. So if we have English as the target language and we're speaking English and we want to also hear that come through the audio channel, we have this toggle that's just echo target language. And so now, let's see. So if I'm speaking German now, obviously it won't hear me, so y'all have to speak. Yeah, maybe you start with Russian.
Ну ладно, давайте попробуем. Всем привет. Меня зовут Алекс.
Okay, let's try it. Hi everyone, my name is Alex.
Это очень интересно. Мы проверяем технологию, которая переводит меня в прямом эфире.
This is very interesting. We're testing a technology that translates me in real time.
Я хочу поговорить с моим другом Wolfram, который говорит на немецком. Если он
I want
поговорит
to
на
talk
немецком, я вроде
to
бы
my
его
friend
пойму, да?
Wolfram, who speaks German. If he speaks German, I think I'll understand him, right?
Na, dann spreche ich jetzt mal Deutsch und mal gucken, ob das Ganze hier gut übersetzt wird.
Well, then I'll speak German now and see if this whole thing gets translated well.
А если я спрошу Ям тоже может поговорить на иврите, я думаю, да?
And if I ask, I also might speak Hebrew, I think, right?
כן, שאלה אם זה באמת יעבוד. בוא נראה אם זה באמת יעבוד.
Yeah. The question is if it will actually work.
Hola, muy
Anyone else?
bien,
Any
muy
other
bien.
languages?
Hello, very well, very well.
Окей, давайте тогда поговорим о чем-то настоящем, посмотрим, если это работает. Мы тут встретились,
Okay, let's talk about something real. Let's see if this works.
Anthropic, который
We're
называется в
here to
Fable
talk
5.
about the new model of the company, Anthropic, which is called Fable 5.
Mucho bueno, mucho grande.
Very good. Very, very great.
I meant to say big, but I mean, yeah, it could be interpreted as great and big.
I meant to say big, but I mean, yeah, it could be interpreted as great.
Oh,
and
this
big.
is the echo language, right? Like it just echoes LDJ because it understands. Folks, I'm very impressed with this. And I kind of like the effect.
Oh, this is the echo language, right? Like it just echoes LDJ because it understands. Folks, I'm.
Wow. I was very impressive. The only thing I noticed is that I said Yam's name, and I don't think it like realized that Yam is a person, and it's gonna like disappear. Everything else was spot on, perfect, real time.
Yeah, it is. It is quite impressive. It's very good as well with technical terms. Like obviously, it recognized Anthropic there in Fable 5 as like terms, which is really impressive.
Yeah, it just came out yesterday. Like there's no way it's in a training. Like wow, whoa. Thor, I will just say a few weeks ago, we got super excited about the Dub V2 from 11 Labs that does like emotions, whatever. That's not nearly real time. That takes like 3 minutes. As like essentially, this is less than 500 milliseconds. It doesn't sound quite like me. Like obviously, like you're not cloning the voice yet. You know, we'll probably get there. Talk to us about kind of like the benefits of real time versus processed translation.
Yeah, no, obviously it's a very different use case. So the model does try to replicate the input voice sort of in real time. So as you could hear, it's not quite there yet. Sometimes it makes you, different gender. Sometimes it, kind of changes the language throughout it changes kind of the tone of the voice throughout the conversation. So we have some work to do there, but it is very impressive in terms of, the latency is mostly coming from the model sort of waiting to understand the context of the sentence. So depending on the language that's being spoken and where kind of the verb is within the sentence, once it kind of groks the context of what is being spoken about, it then can, translate that into currently 70 different languages that we sort of advertise that kind of meet our internal benchmark scores. And that kind of gives you, between these 70 languages, kind of gives you 2,000 different language combinations kind of at the moment that you can translate between. So right now on the API, it's basically, you have one session per kind of target language. So if you wanted to do sort of a bi-directional where you had, two speakers in different languages that want, to converse sort of with each other. So that's kind of what we integrated into Google Meet. You actually then have a unique session kind of per target language to sort of do the multi conversation. So I actually built a demo that sort of allows, the listener in the audience to like select their own language. And then basically for each target language, we spin up kind of a individual session that then translates into that specific language. So yeah, somewhat different from kind of the dubbing use case, where I think in dubbing and what 11 Labs has done really, really well is that voice cloning and really making it sound like you in that language, like as if you were speaking that language. And so the quality of that in 11 dubbing is really, really amazing. But obviously that comes at a trade-off in terms of kind of the speed. So I'm really excited about real time, because I've lived in Singapore where there's many, many different languages being spoken. And generally across Southeast Asia. So I don't know if you saw the example we had with Grab, which is kind of the Uber of Southeast Asia. And if you're traveling within Southeast Asia, there's so many languages being spoken, and oftentimes people don't necessarily speak English. And so they are testing this for like their app. If you can't find the driver that you booked, you can call them, and then you have that conversation where it's translated into each other's languages, and so that is really cool.
I think one of the coolest things about the dubbing, about this as well, is that it's kind of like the previous mode of operation is that I speak, it translates me into text, it translates this text, and then like it generates a voice back. This is one of those also models. There's like it collapses that paradigm into one kind of call, and this is what makes it that efficient. Could you talk about a little bit about the speed and post-processing and like other like benefits of running this like in real time. Obviously, we know the biggest, I don't know if this is the user of it, but the biggest kind of like live translation thing is like the United Nations famously, where like somebody speaks and people from different, wait for the translator to say something proper in the earpiece and they kind of react. I think that, many live translation things don't quite need that level of like person translator. But for live events, for example, this could be incredible. For something like a podcast for us, that if my mom wants to listen to this in Russian, for example, she now technically she can. I can set up streams of like ThursdAI in every language. So it's really, really cool. Talk to me about kind of like collapsing this into one API call versus like a long pipeline and how it affects speed.
Yeah, exactly. So it is a speech-to-speech model. So the transcript that you're seeing is actually running off. It's basically a transcriber that's running on both the audio feeds. So the model itself does not go through text, but it's really sound token to sound token, speech to speech. And so basically the model gets the source language, the source speech in, and kind of understands natively what is being talked about. And then can basically repeat that in any kind of the target languages. And then basically in parallel, we run the transcribers over both the input and the output audio and give you the input and output transcription as well. And so obviously with that, you kind of condense down this pipeline where, you previously might have a cascading pipeline where you have the speech to text, then you have an LLM, or you have an LLM that does kind of at least the speech to translated text kind of in one step. And then you still have the text to speech step. So that is kind of collapsed down into one step here. And we basically make that available on the Gemini Live API, which is kind of our stateful WebSocket API, where you just, stream in the audio and then you get back the transcript chunks, the audio chunks of the translated audio, and then you can play that back in kind of near real time.
And so as a developer, I can basically spin up a session per user, kind of like with the demo you built, right? So like I don't have to pre-select or know ahead of time which user is going to use which language. I can like say, ask Fable or Gemini AI Studio, etc., to build me an interface for ThursdAI website that like if there's a show live right now, tune in and listen to in your language. That'd be super cool. This is definitely a weekend project for me.
Yeah, we actually so that's exactly the demo I built. I don't know if you saw that. So if you go to like the Gemini Live examples, we have an example in there which is called Gemini Live Translate Live Kit. It's this one here, and so it's basically doing that where you have kind of one live kit room, and you ingest the audio that's coming in, and then as the audience selects a new language, you basically spin up a new agent kind of in the live kit room, which is just a session with the Live API that then does this translation. So yeah, I mean, very, very keen for folks to try this out. Yeah, LiveKit also an amazing partner, that we've been working with in sort of making the Live API more accessible to folks. There's a lot of really cool developer tools, especially when you're working with real-time media. Especially as you scale things up, there's a lot of considerations. And so, yeah, if you look at the third-party ecosystem, that can help you there as well.
Thor, I want to call out this comment from Joseph Urban that says, in Dune, this is the navigator's translator. Sci-fi has arrived 10,000 years ahead of schedule, or Babelfish or whatever. I personally built a startup called Targum before to try and break down like language barriers. This is way before voice translation in live. I think it's fascinating. I think it's very important to break down language barriers. And I find like this fascinating. The fact that it runs real time just blew my mind. Absolutely. I don't think that like my reaction was appropriate. I think it needs to be 10x. You guys literally heard me and Wolfram and Yam all converse in different languages, and you all heard this in English. The next level that we weren't able to test is that like each one of us gets back what everybody else said in their language in the headphones and could just converse. And this is all happening under 500 milliseconds on device. So huge shout out to Google for working on this, Thor. Thank you so much. While we have you, by the way, while we have you, there's another piece of news from Google that we absolutely must cover. It's called Diffusion Gemma, and we talked about the diffusion attempts at LLM. Yam, I want to Yam or DJ, I want you to chime in here super quick and talk about the diffusion stuff. Diffusion Gemma is Google open source Diffusion Gemma. It's a text diffusion model that runs 4x faster than the previous Gemmas. It runs over 1,000 tokens per second in H100. I thought, I don't know if you have anything to say about this topic, or you're just reacting as the rest of us, but I found that crazy enough that Sundar himself talks about fucking Hugging Face. You guys see this? Sundar Pichai says model weights available on Hugging Face under Apache 2 license. Let's go. We have a reaction for this when Apache 2 license gets released. We're very, very excited. Let's go. LDJ, tell us about why diffusion is an interesting approach to LLM.
Yeah, well, I'd say one of the biggest technical differences here that actually have an impact on the result of the model is with an autoregressive model where it's just putting out one word at a time. You can't really go back to the first word if you end up or if the model ends up wanting to decide, hey, that wants to be changed. So theoretically, with reasoning models and agentic loops and everything, you can have Claude put its answer in some type of editable text box, and then you could have it edit the first word, but then it has to generate all the reasoning tokens for that whole process and everything. Diffusion, you can generate many tokens at once, and you can, depending on how you do the diffusion, essentially have it edit all parts of that message, essentially all in multiple parts of it all at the same time, and kind of spend the compute in a different way too, and it can have different benefits for different types of hardware depending on what you're wanting to prioritize and everything.
Yeah, I'm with Nistan. Nistan, go ahead.
Quick take. It is still nuts to me that this works at all. And I worked on diffusion models. It's like you're creating a whole bunch of noise, a whole bunch of junk, and it has to work backwards from that junk and create something meaningful. Well, before it could have been a messed up cat picture, but now it's actual working code. That works. It's pretty intense, and it works a lot faster too. It's not doing as well in the benchmarks, but this is just nuts.
I think the benchmark is the least interesting part about this. I think the fact that first of all, it works. Second of all, it rips 1,000 tokens per second. That's crazy, and it's not like a worst model in the world. Thor, большое тебе спасибо. Translate that. Thank you so much for showing up on Thursday and showing us the future of light translation. I'm really excited about this. Can't wait to play with this and maybe build some interface for folks on Thursday to listen to the show in their language of choice. We have to move on because we have a bunch of stuff happening. Feel free to stick around with us here in the panel. Just take a look at the next thing. I'm gonna add Max to the stage. I think first time on the show. Max Weinbach, welcome, an analyst in creative strategies. We just met recently at Google I/O. Where we saw Thor and all of us hang out, Max, and you went to WWDC. So I would love to cover WWDC that happened this week as well, and Apple and AI as well. We'll do this just after this week's Buzz, a corner where we talk about weights and biases and CoreWeave. So we'll dive into this week's Buzz, and then we'll be back with Max Weinbach to cover Siri and Apple Intelligence and Siri, the new Siri AI. So folks, let's go to this week's Buzz. Weights and biases from CoreWeave. Welcome everybody to this week's Buzz, a corner where we talk about the only sponsor of our show, Weights and biases from CoreWeave. And we have a bunch of excitement announcements about Wolfbench that we've spent quite a lot of money to tell you about. Fable 5 and Mythos category model. Wolfram, take it away. We have a little bit less than 5 minutes before we jump in to talk about WWDC. I would love to hear from you. What's new? Tell us.
Okay, let me share my screen, and basically I updated the page as well. The wolfbench.ai is already updated, and I'm sharing the page now, the Chrome tab of Wolfbench. So, of course, the biggest news this week was the Fable release, and I benchmarked it. And the thing about wolfbench.ai, it's an interactive page, so you can create the view you want to see. And what I'm interested in looking at is how does Fable compare to GPT 5.5 and Opus 4.6 and 4.7 and Sonnet. And we just look at the terminus, which is basically Terminal Bench 2.0. And the thing is, something I released last week is that we have now a 3D view where the bars show how many tokens have been used. So we can also see it. And if you hover over the bar, you see that for Fable, it was 984 million tokens compared to GPT 5.5.
I want to pause on this because I don't think we've talked about this live yet. The 3D view, I think, is very interesting. Wolfram, we've been asking you about this for a while. Score is not enough. Even one score is not enough. That's what Wolfram is all about. But definitely just a score is not enough. We have to know how much it costs and how much it costs to run the benchmark, because if the model goes on like an insane tangent, like spins up sub-agents, etc., and solves the task, it may not be economically valuable. So now the 3D view shows people how much tokens it uses. And you can see that GPT 5.5 is very, very efficient with its tokens here compared to other models. Please continue.
Yeah. And the surprising thing, when I did this, I expected Fable to be in the first place. Yeah. Everybody would expect it, I guess. And it's not. It's sitting between Sonnet 4.6 and Opus 4.6. Even GPT 5.4 and Gemini 3.5 Flash, with that many tokens, they were ahead. So I was wondering what happened here. And before I show that, one thing, a feature I just added today, if you click the 3D bars token button again, it doesn't just show you the tokens, it shows you the cost. And if you look at this, you should be a bit surprised, or not surprised. I mean, we know it's expensive, but
wow,
that happens when you run 5 Terminal Bench 2.0 benchmarks. It costs $11,000. Okay, but the thing is, why is the model not as good?
Hopefully, you're not going to get us fired, folks. We're doing this for your benefits. We have budget, and we're making sure that.
But I can't do that. That's why I'm staying with Terminal Bench here. But the interesting thing here. Something, I hope it works if I show this here. If I look at the refusal page. So I did an analysis. So one thing is the scores, but like Swyx said, look at the trajectories, look at the traces. And by the way, all the traces are, of course, on Weave. So if you click on one of the bars, this opens in a new tab. You are taken to the WNB page where you can inspect all of this. So I will just open it here. Quickly, just click on the bar so you can check out what the model said. You are taken to Weave. But the thing is about this, basically the refusals, is that, basically 13 tasks have received refusals where the model did 0 or 5. So basically,
the model just decided to not answer
a password from a file.
Wolfram, can you say again? The model
basically
just
it gets a
refusal.
It's API used. Yeah, it's not answering. You get in the API, you get a refusal. And it did a lot of refusals in this. So what happens? It gets 1 hour per task, and if it gets a refusal, it will just retry. The model or the harness will try to get another one. So for an hour, it just got refusals from the beginning and couldn't solve the task. But some of those tasks were able to be solved by Claude Opus 4.6 or 4.7. And that is why it got such a bad score. The model is great, but the refusal detection is so hard that it basically takes 13 tasks and completely messes them up, even if many of those tasks have been 5 of 5. So there were actual stable tasks that the model can do. And if you look at the score again, and we can just look at the score without the depth. If we look at this and we look at the absolute number of tasks, so it solved on average 60 tasks. Here's Fable, 60 tasks. So the difference to GPT 5.5 is just 8 tasks on average. And of those 13 tasks, if it had solved them, it would be in the number 1 place. So this is not a bad model. It is just a very, very strong classifier that says this is not allowed.
So I think the very interesting thing is that, Fable 5 obviously is very, very good at long-running tasks. And we're limiting the terminal bench for 2 hours, I believe, right? Like you cannot run like longer than 2 hours.
1 hour.
1 hour. 1 hour.
It's 1 hour.
Yeah, so like there could be a potential like very, very skewed. Like we saw it on Sora and like other places. But I think it's very important to see the price performance here. It was absolutely insane out of distribution. Wolfram, thank you so much for testing. We have to move on because like we have a bunch of other stuff to cover. I think the main thing. Let me bring back our guest here. The main thing that I really want to cover is WWDC, Apple's annual conference. Talk about software and not hardware specifically. Max Weinbach, thank you so much for joining us on Thursday. your first time here. So please give folks maybe like a brief 1 or 2 line of who you are and what you do in your life and how you got to be part of the WWDC cohort, and then we'll talk about their announcements there.
Yeah, so it's nice being on here, but I am an analyst at Creative Strategies. Before that, I more or less journalist, a little bit fun reviews, some other stuff, and that has just allowed me to work with big companies and go to all these events, learn about it, and talk about it, which is fun.
Yeah, definitely fun. You've been, I think, the source for breaking down Apple Intelligence, the new SIRI AI, at least on X, as far as I've seen. And so I got very, got very lucky to have met you like a few weeks ago at Google I/O, and we chatted a little bit and we talked, and I invited you to the show because can I show the folks here my source of disdain and not fun? I am still waitlisted for the new SIRI. I installed the new iOS 27 developer beta, and I'm still waitlisted for a new SIRI. And I actually needed it yesterday, and it was awful because I had to use the previous SIRI. Now, Max, here on Thursday, we've been for 3.5 years covering AI. Around 2 years ago, WWDC, they came out with Apple Intelligence, and we got I at least got all excited. I was like, hey, finally Apple's catching up. They released a bunch of ads, if you remember, with Bella Ramsey talking to Siri and like doing mischievous stuff from like behind the scenes. Hey Siri, do this and this. Go find this, go find this email. Go schedule this, whatever. Then Apple did not deliver on that and had to pull those ads from YouTube. And here's my question for you. Number one, first of all, you have access to this new SIRI AI. Are we finally getting a smarter Siri that's powered by like proper AI in 2026? Is this actually true? Or is Apple faking again?
Oh, it's true. I've been trying it. I rushed to install the developer beta literally as soon as the keynote ended. We were rushed over to like a little tech talk with Craig and everyone, and I was rushing to install it because I wanted to be first on the wait list because I knew this would happen. But one of the first things I was asking it was like, show me the photos from Qualcomm Summit last year of the penguins. It found what Qualcomm Summit was from my email. It found the hotel I was staying at, and then it searched for penguins at that location and pulled up the 6 images of those penguins. And it was able to do this in roughly about 12 seconds.
Wow. Are you serious?
I can do demos of it here. I have it on my
I would
phone.
love a demo. I think you can share a screen and then choose like a selection on your phone.
It might be hard to do it, but I can at least have the voice talk and try to show it into the camera. But
I would love that. 12 seconds is insane.
What I stayed at in Florida like 4 years ago with a couple of my friends over the summer. I know it's going to go. And, that's pretty... Oh, damn it, I canceled it. But...
Try again. That's fine.
What hotel did I stay at in Florida a couple summers ago with my friends? It was Miami Beach. And now it goes. It kind of loads at the top. I should probably turn off the background here. And there we go. It loads at the top. It takes a second because I can actually walk through the architecture. Now, every question you ask runs in the local model. That local model will then do the tool calls. If it needs to go to a data center, I think it has a classifier in there, it will trigger that, send it to the data center model. That data center model cannot make tool calls on your phone. All it's doing is reasoning through the data the local model was given. The local model gave it, and then it sends it back. So it's a back and forth between the local model and the cloud model, where the cloud model is just there to plan and reason.
Does it get hot? Have you noticed it getting warm while you're doing a lot of these tests?
Not really, actually, because it uses the NPU for the majority of it. So it just kind of doesn't. Here, and that didn't work, but I have the... So the other thing they said was, this is an early beta. They're having a lot of compute issues. Even in the demos when they're giving it at WWDC, if something didn't work, they're like, private cloud compute, we're still scaling it up, give us some time.
That's maybe why the reason for the waitlist. I've been trying to get off the waitlist for the last 2 days to try out the new SIRI. Max, let's talk about how it works a little bit. So your private context remains private. That's Apple's like big promise. Apple's like big on privacy, big on security. You're not sending your data like to too many things, especially the tool calls. Since you installed the new iOS, there's a whole process of indexing. It indexes, I have no idea what, but like for the past 3 days.
Every email, every photo, every calendar contact, and then if apps expose data with app intents or to Spotlight, it indexes everything in all of your apps that it can as well. Everything.
It's very similar, like on the Mac, if you search for something, all your files are indexed immediately, right? And now the same happens on the iPhone. It still indexes, by the way. I don't know how long it takes or how big the database is going to be. And then that information plus the app intents, basically what they promised us, like your whole personalized context within an LLM that's local, private cloud, and then sets off to Google at some point as well. Can you talk about that architecture?
The cloud is Google. So
okay.
There are 5 models that Apple has. There's 2 on device. One is the standard Apple Foundational Model Core. Every iPhone with Apple Intelligence has that. There's Foundational Model Core Advanced, which is 20 billion parameter, super interesting model architecture, which we can get to in a second if you want.
Yeah, we have to talk about this. I heard it's wild.
Yeah. Then there's 3 cloud models. Apple Foundational AFM Server, AFM Server Image. AFM Server is an Apple model running on Apple Silicon and Apple's private cloud compute. AFM Server Image is the exact same thing, but it's a diffusion image model. Then there's AFM Server Pro, which is still on private cloud compute, but it's a private cloud compute Apple built with Google. It's still Apple built the servers, Apple designed it, the software stack is Apple, everything is Apple, it's just in Google's cloud. This uses NVIDIA GPUs with confidential compute. It's Blackwell GPUs only. It uses Intel CPUs with TDX for hardware attention, so you can't do it, and then it uses Google Titan chips. The reason you have these 3 layers here are confidential compute means when the GPU processes the information, it does not know what it's processing. It has no idea what it's generating or the input and output data. All it's doing is generating tokens. TDX and Google Titan chips mean that you need a specific Apple hardware signature from the server, the management, the device handling it. And if there's a mismatch there, won't accept data, won't respond data, it just won't accept the request. If one of those 2 are in some way, someone can hack into it, kills the entire thing, it won't even accept a request from your phone. And all of that's done is with the secure enclave and the hash in each device. So if something happens, like they need to be updated in tandem, your phone will only talk to servers that were updated to match that version. If something happens and that hash doesn't match, won't work. And then no data saved. There's no persistent storage at all. There's no hard drives. It just processes and it's back. So
completely the opposite of what we are now having with Fable, that every conversation it tags now remains up to like 1 year on Anthropic services and there's no zero data retention. Apple's going on private and secure and like local as much as possible, right? So we can talk about the 20 billion parameter model that somehow they're able to run within like a few seconds without like prefill taking over your whole GPU. And then when it gets sent off to a different data center, it's still incredibly encrypted private. Even Apple cannot access. Is that kind of like the summary?
Yeah, it's funny. If you want to save any of the chats, you can do it. There's in privacy settings on your phone, there's something called Apple Intelligence Report, which is what I've been posting, kind of breaking it down. That report is where those logs are saved. It's off by default, so quite literally nothing's saved. If you want to save it, it'll either save it for normally 15 minutes or 7 days. After 7 days, it's gone no matter what. So you'd have to manually go through and export it every 7 days. And that is the only place any of it is saved, is on your phone, that you have to go and manually export. And by default, it saves nothing.
Wait, so my question is, there's a new SIRI app. SIRI used to be this like ephemeral thing that's flying around your phone, like only turning on when you need to. Now there's an app that looks like ChatGPT. You can upload images, right? You can upload text. You can maybe documents as well. It can generate some stuff. Is my conversation history not there? Like after 7 days, it goes away? Or?
It is. That's saved to the SIRI app, but not the backend requests or the tool.
I see. Yeah.
And that SIRI app does have a couple options. You can have it auto delete after 30 days. You can have it auto delete after 90, 1 year, or never delete. And it is synced with iCloud. Now, some people are saying, well, this doesn't matter. If you can, if a government can go request your data from iCloud, then they would have it. And normally true, but there's actually something called advanced protection within iCloud, where you then have, it then encrypts even the data in iCloud. And if you want to decrypt it, you have the encryption key. Only you actually have to write it down when you do it. And if you forget it, you have to wipe the encryption key and restart. But that's that way it is completely secure. No, even if Apple sends data from iCloud to whoever requests it, they can't get that data without your encryption key.
Max, let's talk about how potentially big a deal this is. So I watched WWDC. I did a live stream. YouTube gave me a strike because like Apple's very bad at copyright. They really didn't want anybody restreaming their thing. Lesson learned. And I was kind of snoozing during the WWDC, the first part at least. First of all, it was the shortest one. It was Tim Cook's, like, famously last Good Morning WWDC. They talked very little about kind of the updates to the OSs. That's not super interesting to our crowd, but they improved everything. The highlight there for me was AirDrop is improved like 80%. What it feels like they found Claude Mythos and now used it to like improve all of the services together. iOS runs faster on older iPhones. It's kind of incredible, but boring. The boring good stuff that Apple does from mid cycles is great. And then they talk about child safety. We're not going to cover child safety. And then they got to Apple Intelligence. I was ready to get disappointed. And now everyone that I see talks about Siri just is incredibly excited. And I got to wonder if this is like we used to have a very shit experience for 3 years and now we have like a somewhat decent experience and this is why it's good, or it's actually good. And the second thing that I want you to answer is how important this is, because this is on device. This is where most people will use AI, and it's coming almost for free for them versus like having to pay for an external app. Like how big of a deal this is that like this level of intelligence is now like in every pocket on the iOS side. I know for an Android, it's been there for a while.
So I think to the first part of, is it actually good? Yes, it's actually good. It gives you a Gemini and ChatGPT-like experience, but anything on your phone. And while that doesn't seem like a big deal, the big one for me is I have 3 email accounts: ChatGPT, Gemini. It's one at a time. I can
they're connected to one.
Everything.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the biggest part for me. So this makes it immediately useful in ways literally none of the others could ever be. And then you get into this whole enterprise data security thing, blah, blah, blah. And because most of it's on device, none of your data is synced to a data center for an index. The index is local. Everything runs local. It might not even go to the cloud for basic requests. No one really has a problem, especially because, again, it's Apple's private security. The private cloud compute data center inference, whatever, the private cloud compute software is completely open source. You can go look at it and you can go try to break into it. That's the whole thing. Apple wants you to try to break it so they can fix it. They have a huge program for it to try to do that, even on the new NVIDIA version and the Apple Silicon version. But Siri did suck for like 11 years. It doesn't anymore. It's really good now. It is genuinely, you can ask it basically anything and it can answer. It's got general world knowledge.
I want you to talk about the context of the screen. Yesterday I had to fill out, I'm going to Hawaii immediately after this, folks, mini honeymoon. Yay, I'm very excited. I was trying to fill out like a rental car application from far away. And it asked me my flight number. And like, I don't remember the flight number. And like, I tried to ask the dumb Siri what my flight number is from tomorrow, and they just went and Google searched flight numbers in general as a concept. I was like, oh no, I don't need the extra intelligence for this. I need a very basic 20 billion intelligence will do. Just go and find me the fucking number and just paste it here. You talk about the context on screen. I think it's very important that you can like ask questions.
So you can, it has context of whatever you're looking at. So if you're in, so one of the great examples I had, I posted on Twitter a couple days ago was I had an email from some PR spam. It just sends me a bunch of annoying junk mail all the time. I said, can you just go look at all the emails from this domain and see if they're junk? It did. It pulled up 40 of them. All were junk. I just said, add all of those to my junk and label them as spam. And it did it. That was it. I was in my email. I said, find me all of these, label them as junk, done. Didn't have to open anything, didn't have to do anything. And like that's the really nice on-screen context. It knows what you're looking at. It knows what you could want, and it'll do it. And even on your flight example, if you call your airline now, it will just pop up with your flight information in the phone app. You don't have to even ask Siri. It will just proactively show it to you.
So like in the phone app, it will show. I also saw it shows people's birthdays, which is like very, very cool. I don't think it's AI related, but like I think it's very cool.
Well, that's the indexing. Because it can now index it. It has the 2 of them. It runs the little model in there to say, hey, is there anything in the index? Runs the quick little agent, shows you anything that might be relevant.
LDG, I think you popped a question.
Yeah, so I was gonna say I feel like it's not a coincidence that it's now getting to the point where it's robust enough to actually roll out and have people like Max use it, because OpenClaw, I mean, this whole phenomenon of OpenClaw, Hermes agent, things like that is pretty recent. And those were just getting to this point where it's actually robust enough and the models are getting capable enough to do these types of workflows. And I feel like what Apple is doing here is really maybe the first successful commercialization and simplification of that original vision of what OpenClaw is meant to be, like integrated with all of your life's information and being able to supply you valuable actions with that.
Personal context is very important. Max, I think LTJ, to continue your question, there was a off conversation after the WWDC with Craig Federighi and like the chief of Apple. Were you also part of that? Yeah.
Yes, I was.
Somebody asked him about agents, and he made the wisecrack about Google I/O. That like, hey, they only talk about agents, and asked whether or not like Siri is agentic to a point. I think the password changing thing is agentic essentially. Like, what are some of the other stuff that Siri can like actually do when I ask it to do as an agent, even though they're not marketing it as agents at all? They're just like marketing it as Siri AI.
So Apple was very specific. The word agent came up once in the phrase agentically with the password changing. And that's cool. It just uses Safari in the background of your phone, and it goes in a computer use model to fill in the old password, grab your two-factor codes, reset it with one of the suggested passwords, and update in your app. Super. That's a legitimately great use case of it. But the Siri architecture is by nature agentic, right? It's an agentic loop. App intends to pull in data. And what they had said was, it is right now functionally designed to pull in more data than it is to act upon that data. And my guess is, but you can't act upon data, right? If you're in your email I had a phone OEM asking me for my address to come to send me a device. I said, but just on my Mac, I used the quick shortcut for it. I said, send them my email and phone number. And it just fills that in for me. And it creates the draft and it can send it. That's agentic in nature. So it can do these little things, but it's not doing the long time horizon, a bunch of multi-step process to do work for you. It can do it, but it's not doing it very often. I think a lot of that's just the models really aren't there to do it reliably and consistently. The app intents across non-Apple apps are not super well supported, but it can do agentic tasks. It can sort things for you. I was visiting my girlfriend. I said, can you just make a photo album from when I was visiting her last weekend? And it does it. It takes all the photos from when I was there and it makes the album. Like it can, but it's not this OpenClaw style, because at least when I was even using OpenClaw, my problem with it was I don't know what to do with it. I just don't. It sits there. It sends me texts every once in a while. I don't really need news and information. I'm not a full-time developer where something like this is kind of helpful for me. But Siri, when I can just think of something and immediately tell it to, and it processes on my phone, that's super useful. I don't have to go and make sure it's set up. I don't have to go link a bunch of accounts. I don't have to go find a random CLI, then go and pull a custom Google OAuth certification to go log in and whitelist my accounts. Like, I don't have to do any of that. It just works. And this is the first time you're seeing like a consumer agent that can actually use all of your information, all of your context, act in some apps, not always all of them, and do something with it. And that's super helpful.
I think this is the big point about this. There's billions of iPhones, I think, being used right now around the world. Many of those people will never ever install OpenClaw or even think about the CLI or know what the CLI is. But saying, hey Siri, without waking up my Siri, obviously woke up, is something that they probably can do. The biggest hurdle, I think, for Apple right now is the fact that Siri was down for such a long time that people only consider Siri when they need to set up a timer, and even that's not reliable. And I really hope that like people will be able to now use like proper AI. Max, maybe last question for you. We're over time, but I really want to like get into this. The new Apple foundational model that they've trained, distilled from Gemini, as far as distilled from Google something. I'm not sure if it's Gemini. Is 20 billion parameters, but runs like immediately with low overhead. Could you talk about a little bit about the architecture there? I think it's very important for our audience as well. Like, how does that model run locally on device without it getting caught, without waiting 5 seconds for the whole model to load in the context? They talked about their integration vertical stack. Would love to hear more from what you kind of like covered about that.
So Apple has two models. If you don't have an iPhone 17 Pro or an iPhone Air, it'll use the standard 3 billion dense model. Their 20 billion is a sparse model. What they do is they always keep a small, the first couple attention layers loaded. And then when you put in a prompt, it uses something called instruct tuning. So rather than loading all 20 billion parameters in, the way it ends up working is it just loads in 1 to 4 billion parameters you need for that prompt. So if your prompt is, let's say, generating audio, because it is fully multimodal, audio, image, and text in, and then audio, text out. I don't know about image out. Probably image out as well, I'd imagine. Yeah. But it will then load in, let's say, the 4 billion parameters needed for audio out, but none of the text parameters. So it takes your prompt, it knows this is an audio input, I need to do an audio output, and it will generate, it'll load just in those 4 billion audio parameters and generate the tokens. And then every every few tokens, it may check to see if it needs to unload or reload different parameters to do it. So unlike an MOE where you're keeping everything loaded and only activating some of them, you're keeping nothing loaded and only loading what is needed to answer it. They actually have a research report on this. I think it's called prompt expert pruning, instruct prompt expert pruning or something. There's an Apple research report I can send or tweet or post.
Yeah, please send it. We'll add this to the show notes.
Yeah, I can do that. But it's a very cool research for it. So you can have that 20 billion parameter model that is fully multimodal, but you only load in what's necessary for the prompt given. So you still have some of the KV cache, but again, because you're only loading in that 4 billion parameters for that, 4 billion at most, it's 1 to 4. Because you're only loading in what's needed for the prompt, you don't have that super large 20 billion parameter KV cache overhead. It's only for the 1 to 4, depending on what's necessary.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I'm really looking forward to this. I've been looking forward to this for the past 2 years. I've been very disappointed.
You already have it. If you go to dictation in your settings, enable the dictation preview, and that's the new model actually generating your dictation.
Whoa.
It is significantly better. And then the new Siri voice runs locally across all devices. And when you enable it, you'll have an expressive. Yeah, the new Siri voice, when you get the new Siri, will run locally, and that's going to be the expressive voice preview you see in your Siri settings. So that new voice, again, is from that 20 billion parameter model. And the dictation, the preview for the new version is also using that 20 billion parameter model.
I definitely have to try out dictation. Max Weinbach, thank you so much for joining. Folks, please go follow Max. As you see, he's a wealth of knowledge. Definitely, after he participates in the event, there's a very thorough breakdown. Max, I think people in your tweets asked you for like a full write down versus like desperate tweets, and you said you're going to post that as well. Please send it to me as a link. We'll add this to the show notes as well. I'm looking forward to many of you experiencing this. I'm looking forward to the new series as well. Folks, this has been Thursday. I wish we could go on for longer. Fable 5 and Mythos 5 are incredible. We've tested them out. Go play with them. If you're able to get a non-refusal result, which is harder and harder by the minute, I think those models are, in fact, a step change in the agentic stuff. Definitely look out for other Wolfbench kind of analysis. Maybe not for Fable, because we have a budget and we want to spend it for other models as well. But a live translation, also something we tested live on the show today. Thank you so much for joining, folks. We'll be here next week as well. We love big model weeks, and this is one of the bigger ones by far. If you look at any of the benchmarks that we barely shown, because it feels like it was such a very clear advancement in the frontier of AI that the benchmarks themselves weren't like very, very interesting. Jumps across everything. We did cover frontier code with Swyx from Cognition. If you look at any of the benchmarks, Fable is by far the strongest one, but also the most expensive one. So go play with Fable. Let us know what you think in the comments. If you missed any part of the show is with the use of Fable, with the help of Fable, I think I'll do it, is getting cut into a newsletter and a podcast that's released on thursdai.news. Please visit the new website that we have that Fable was able to run for us, and subscribe and tell your friends about the show. And with that, we'll see you here next week. Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Cheers.